what it to feel like. You know what I'm saying? Y'all in the lab with us, you know? Peace, kid. You know what I mean? Hotel Blue. What I'm saying, you know what I mean? Yeah, what I'm saying, you know what I mean? Got something with it. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Yeah, what I'm saying, you know what I mean? Got something with it. Yeah. My enemies frustrated cause I won't engage. I expose slaves, they ain't fucking with the culture wave. Till I'm holding great, potent on the vocal aid. In the streets or internet like a open J. Young king playing the part I'm supposed to play. Sapiosexual vibration, I poke your bae. She at your neck like he ain't got the answer sway. Jay got a colorful aura like anime. Young bull flex on all old niggas, go figure. I'm in bed with success, cozier than cold winters. They got a massive team but nobody know business. I go with hits like a ho-ho, go with Christmas. Had to pause for the bros who missed it. Your boy flow wicked and so liquid. I speak life, build my own bridges. My gold glisten, only cause I'm so gifted. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Yeah, what I'm saying, you know what I mean? Got something with it. Whoa. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Yeah, what I'm saying, you know what I mean? Got something with it. I know you feel the climate change in the multiverse. Came up off the stoop in that same hat, only shirt. How you calling that a queen if she only twerk? You on your own with that, son. Lonely birth, move authentic, views all tinted. We know that eye candy in them 2 doors rented. I ain't out of pocket, I've been cool for a minute. May you dig your own grave and you dudes fall in it. Official moves, like them dudes wearing red and blues. Get the clue, it's what you really better do. Nothing but my hints are new in the vestibule. Anyone else stepping to need a pedestal. Pin to the paper lines, hotter than an iron felt. Designed for the monoline with the higher self. Pin to the paper lines, hotter than an iron felt. Designed for the monoline with the higher self. Say, you know what I mean? Yeah, what I'm saying, you know what I mean? Got something with it. Whoa. What I'm saying, you know what I mean? Yeah, what I'm saying, you know what I mean? Got something with it. Whoa.
Peace and blessings, family. This is your brother asarimhotep with the Martin Delaney Center for Egyptology. And today is Kujichagulia, aka Monday, January the 30th, 2023. And we have a very, very special guest, Brother Jamaar Milton, who will be performing at the upcoming HAPI Black Excellence Conference that is going to be held in Queens, New York on Saturday, February the 4th. So we're going to get into his life, get into his music, and much, much more. All that and more when we return in just a second. Peace and blessings. Welcome back. Again, this is your brother asarimhotep with the Martin Delaney Center for Egyptology, and I am glad that you are able to join us today as we have a very, very special guest with us. And again, I had mentioned that, and I'm just going to share my screen real quick, that there is an upcoming conference in New York City. And let me just make that a bit bigger so y'all can see. It is the Black Excellence gathering, and it's going to be a combination of dynamic speakers as well as artists. And so on the speaker side, we have Professor James Small, who we interviewed the other night. We have Riza Islam, Brother Infodishi Chihuti Mess, Dr. Georgina Falu, Dr. Suzanne Tata, who we've also interviewed, Dr. Akaba Hayawata Kamine, and the host is going to be Dr. Ken L. Harris. And that is going to be just part of the program. There is a performance piece with the hip hop group Brand Nubian and our guest today, Jamaar Milton. And there's also going to be a poet. I don't see her picture on here. By the name of Lyrical. I'm sorry, let me make sure I get this correct. Yes, Lyrical Faith. And you can see her right here in this, if you can see my mouse kind of circling here next to Brand Nubian. So it is going to be a very, very special and dynamic conference. God willing, I will be in the building, and you can go to the HAPI.com website and click on the first green link to purchase tickets, and it will take you to this page, the Eventbrite page, where you can, if you plan on being in New York, you can purchase an in-house ticket, or if you will not be able to attend physically, they are streaming it live. So you can also purchase a stream ticket as well. So I highly recommend, if you have not purchased your tickets yet, to hurry up and do so, and help to make this event a success, so that we can have more of these in the future. And it says 1 p.m. to 8 p.m., but I think it's 1 to 9 p.m. Per my last message with Brother Taki. So essentially a full evening of events. So block out your calendars, and I look forward to seeing you in the building. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on the brother who's one of his many music videos that you saw at the beginning of the program. I'm going to play another one as well towards the end, so you can get a feel of this good brother's sound. So peace and blessings. Welcome to the Mbongi, Brother Jamal. If I'm even saying that correctly.
Pleasure.
He's like, all right.
Absolutely.
All right. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings.
Likewise.
It is an honor to have you here, and so much to talk about, so little time. But since you are new to this channel, in regards to some people who may not know you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of where you are from? How did you get into music, and how did you get into the type of music that you do? What is that range and scope? And because I don't want to just limit you, but what makes you talk about that which you talk about? Go ahead.
Yeah, so my name is Jamaar Milton. Peace to everybody. I'm Mayat. I'm from Long Island, New York. I was born in Freeport, New York, raised in Roosevelt, New York. So I've been doing music my whole life, like literally. Like I don't know anything else I've been doing music since I would say first grade. Like, joining the choruses and stuff like that. I was always singing and stuff like that. I got into bands by the fourth grade. Playing instruments. And it's funny because the first instrument I ever played was or brought home was the cello. It was like 3 times my size, and my mother was like, bring that back." I probably did like 2-3 lessons on it. My mother was like, "Bring that back," right? So then I went from that to the French horn, and then from that to the violin. I played about 5-6 instruments before I was even, in the 6th grade, and it was primarily because I came late. I missed the day when they were passing out all the instruments to the kids, so I had to get the leftovers. So that left me with the big bass, and I was like 4'2". So from there, I ended up learning a lot of different instruments because I was trying to find myself and what did I want to do in the band. So ultimately, I ended up in the back of the class with the drummers. So I ended up becoming a drummer more than anything. I've been playing the drums for about 30 plus years of my life. I'm just masterful at the drums. And then, that's when I really started to delve into beat making and, DJing and creating music. Now, the type of music that I make, as far as consciousness, I wasn't always a conscious artist. I started off in the church. I was at first just, singing, and then that turned into, well, we can rap. And me and like 3 of my friends decided to form a group. We were called the Disciples, right? And we started a group, but the church wasn't ready for that at the time. So they shunned us for it. They literally criticized us, wouldn't allow us to do what we wanted to do. So that put a bad taste in our mouth as far as church was concerned, because we felt like we was doing it for God. You know what I'm saying? So this is before Kirk Franklin. This is before any of that was out yet. So it was very, very new what we were doing. But then ultimately, after we grew older and we started going out our own venturing out, consciousness came. We were in the street doing street music. I started doing videos of celebrities and stuff backstage. I had started a show called Ruga TV, and there was a lot of shock value stuff before shock value was really out. Like, we see the stuff that's going on now as far as putting stuff out. We were doing that a long time ago. Like, what celebrities are doing behind the scenes, we were already doing that reality stuff, and Ruga TV was real successful in that light. But then ultimately, time passes, you get married and you start to settle down. I walked away from the music because it was just way too aggressive, a lot of stuff going on. And I was like, I'm gonna put it down and just concentrate on family. So I took a break for a long time, about a decade, really. So it seems like I'm just getting here. Like, people are just now recognizing who I am. But those who were in the streets prior 20 years ago, they know who I am. They know what I was doing. I was Vlad TV before Vlad TV was Vlad TV. You know what I mean? So I was doing a lot of that. So what happened was, once I became conscious, my music has always reflected my lifestyle and what I was seeing. My art always reflected, my real life. So when I started doing music again, it was because I saw the need for it, in what I was doing. Like, I wasn't doing the things that I was doing in life 20 years ago. So I needed a soundtrack to go with that. You know what I'm saying? I needed something to inspire me to do what it is that I'm doing now. And the music that was out at that time wasn't reflecting that. I used to love listening to Common and Tyler Kweli, Erykah Badu, Music Soul Child, Jay Dilla, Slum Village. These are the type of sounds that really honed who I am. So it wasn't hard for me to segue into consciousness versus like gospel rap or street rap or anything. Like, I'm just a musical person. So whether I'm doing hip hop or R&B or even just beats, the element is always going to be in there. My life and what I'm experiencing is always going to be in the music. So, it's only right that there are certain people that live the same lifestyle and came from the same houses that I came from. So, they relate to it. Once I started my company, the Lighthouse, I wanted something for them to listen to other than what we was hearing, and the murder, death, kill, sex, drugs, money, and murder. So I was like, I could actually use this as a tool, this music, to help awaken people, and segue them from this to that, because I know both sides of the spectrum. So I think what's special about my music is that you hear that in that. Like, a lot of times you hear consciousness or conscious music, and it's very either so far left that you can't even understand it, right? Or it's so far right that it's just not even good at all. Like, it's just trash, right? We've had a lot of conscious artists come and go in the community, and respectfully, sometimes people just don't do it right. So, I always try to mesh both worlds and help them to understand that we're more alike than we are different. And, there's a commonality between both worlds, and in Christianity and the Christian faith, where I grew up, we were taught, like, you can't even associate with anybody that's not like you, so this kind of changes that dynamic. My music kind of shows that, we can all be one and the same. We can all listen to an artist and get what we're looking for out of it. Sometimes I'll trick people indirectly. Like, I'll say things that are aggressive just to get them to listen, and then flip it on them. You know what I'm saying? Show them the other side of the spectrum, because I understand people's attention spans are short. So you have to give them almost that shock value at first. Like, what is this? You know what I mean? And then once they're in tune, it's like, all right, now let me show you what I was trying to show you, because you wasn't going to listen if I didn't give it to you like this. You see what I'm saying? So
indeed, I wanna kind of stay in this pocket, and because you kind of went over this kind of just smoothly a little early. So you started off in the church,
yeah,
and you was doing your music, and they weren't receptive at the time, and I remember those days before
yeah,
Kirk Franklin
it's very real.
and the like, before they came off with. But how? Because I'm looking at kind of Egyptian wings is what I could see on your shirt. I'm
Yeah,
looking at some other kind of emblems and stuff that you mentioned in your video. So this is far removed
yes,
from the church. So what was that? What was that process? Leaving that particular paradigm and then
yeah,
coming into one that's more African centered. What transpired, and what got you over the hump? And then
yeah.
what was your feelings going through that transition, again, from that one paradigm into one that's more African centered?
Man, that's loaded. It was a necessary hell, I would say. The transition. Um, Pretty much what had transpired was I had a near-death experience, where I ended up cutting one of my fingers off, like, nearly completely, and it had to be sewed back on. So I was given medication for that. It was oxycodone, and I started taking the oxycodone, and I didn't like it immediately. Like, it gave me the shakes, and but in any case, it put me in this, like, real depressive state where I started drinking too. And
Mhm.
both of those two mixed, it just took me out. And in that experience, in that near-death experience, I realized that neither Jesus nor the devil came to come get me. I saw my body laying there. I'm outside of my body. I'm experiencing a full-blown out-of-body experience, to where I see myself as literally dying, dead, right? And I have a choice. Like, I can go back into my body, or I can go elsewhere. I can do whatever I wanted to do. But I felt all the power. I remember it very clearly. So when I decided to come back, I literally laid back on top of my body. Like, I felt my body struggling, but I also felt the energy that wanted my body. So it felt like I had a certain amount of time to make a choice. So I decided, after going through my entire life, I went through everything in my life, from my first moment of consciousness, from being able to walk. That was my first moment of consciousness, or first memory, was walking from a living room table, like centerpiece, to a couch. And I remember telling myself, I could just get here, I'll be okay. That was my first memory. And then I lived my entire life. You know how they say your life flashed before your eyes? That's exactly what happened. I lived my whole life almost like in an instant. Time didn't even exist. And then but I had all the memories of a 30-something-year-old reliving it now. So now when I come back to the state where I'm at now, everything that led up to that moment, I had a full understanding of how I got to where I am, what led me to this. And ultimately, I realized it was my belief system, right? And my viewpoint of the world. So I became very, very aggressive at that point with studying Jesus, because that's what I was following at the time. So I became aggressive with trying to prove that Jesus was real. That's how I ended up where I am. Not trying to prove that Jesus was wrong or Christianity was wrong or not real. I wanted to delve into the science and the history of religion, of Christianity, of my faith, and show people, hey, listen, this is what you need to do. And the more I kept doing it, the more walls I started running into as far as what was true. And then that led me to Egypt, ultimately. I took a trip to Chichen Itza. I went to Mexico, to the pyramids down there. I had an experience there with some of the natives. I jumped into the water in caves, had an experience there. It was almost like my baptism. From that, coming out of that, they told me, hey, these pyramids, they align with the ones in Africa. And I said, what do you mean? I said, we're on the entire opposite side of the planet. What do you mean they align with the ones in Africa? This is what the natives told me. Now, I'm not conscious at all. I don't know anything. I'm just like mind blown. I'm like, I got to figure out what's going on here, because this does not make sense, right? These are two totally different time periods in history. How are they aligned with one another? What is the relationship between the Africans and the Mayans? So I started getting aggressive with that, studying pyramids. You know what I mean? And that led to the knowledge of ancient African civilizations, the Nile Valley, how they learned mathematics and science and botany and astrology, zoology. They invented all of that. And from that totally obliterated everything that I was taught about as far as religion, as far as what happened in true history. I was still under the mental time frame that we've only been on the planet for 6,000 years. I never went to a museum and saw a 100,000-year-old skeleton of a human. You see, religion keeps you from that. Like, you don't, even if you saw it, cognitive dissonance will make you believe that you're not seeing what you're seeing. It won't even help you connect the dots that what you're studying is a lie. Even if I showed you the bones. So from that, I realized, like, yo, there are many others who are like me, who, even if I gave them the truth, wouldn't be able to digest it. How can we help to? This is what is holding our people back, right? Because I'm in the museum, I'm walking around, I see all the other cultures studying with their children. Me and my family was like the only black family in there. I'm like, this is the problem. And the solution is simple. It's knowledge. How do we get knowledge to the people? So I just became crazy with it. Like, how do I started dropping memes, anything that I can do to spread knowledge, right? Music, I wasn't even doing music. But then I started to delve into it. I said, you know what? Everything that I learned as far as my programming, right? I started off with simple. I said, ABCs. How did I learn my ABCs? They taught me a song. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I'll never forget it for the rest of my life. It was only taught to me once, but I'll never forget it. And guess what? They taught me other things with that same melody. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Same thing. It's the music. That is the key. And I said, I know how to do that. Right? So that led me to saying, I'm going to sit down now with the intent. Before I would just write music based on life and, I'm just doing my thing. I said, now I'm going to sit down with the intent of teaching I'm going to write lyrics that's going to teach somebody something. I'm going to empower with my lyrics versus just destroy or talk my talk, right? I can do that, but at the same time, I can teach through this effectively, and I can become a part of people's lives, right? So I said, this is what we need. So that's what led me to where I am now as far as consciousness and putting the consciousness in the music. It's because I realized that there was a great need for it, and ultimately, it's the easiest way to teach an old dog new tricks, right? Because much of this is programming that we've received over decades and decades and decades. You can't just break somebody out of that, right? But you give them a nice tune to listen to. Eventually, they're gonna, because people don't listen to lyrics. They listen to the sounds first, the tones, the chords. That's what you take back first. I said, eventually, they're gonna start listening to this, to what I'm saying, right? And once they start doing that, now we're where we need to be. I can take them to where they need to go. First, we got to be where we need to be before I can take you where we need to go, right?
Indeed.
We got to deprogram you before we can program you back to where you need to be, your default setting. Because right now, this is not our default setting. It's just not, right? This is not how we put things together, ideas together. This is not how we render the world. We're even producing technology wrong, right? We're producing it for the wrong things. Everything's about making life easier and just, so we don't actually explore. It's keeping us in this box. So it's limiting us. So I realized the power and frequency and vibration, and how music ultimately is that, how the whole world is a song. Essentially, the whole universe is a song. The earth vibrates at a frequency of B flat. Did you know that? Like, it carries a tone, a note. Guess what? There are harmonics that go with that, right? So when you are vibrating on that harmonic frequency, guess what happens? You become in tune with the universe, literally. This, like, some people be thinking like it's just like talking hearsay when we talk frequency and vibration. No, it's a real science that we can show and we can like demonstrate. So when we're able to do that, through our music, I was able to tune my music to a frequency of 528. My first album, 9, that was on CD, was tuned to a specific frequency, the frequency of love. It's very rare that people even talk about that. Michael Jackson was probably the last person to even talk about it. People don't know that the music that we have out is tuned to 440 hertz, which is the frequency of deception and confusion. If you've ever seen what 440 hertz does to water, it destroys its metabolic shape. When you have it at a frequency of 528, it helps to build the body back. See? The frequency of 528 is the frequency of DNA repair. It's the frequency of love. So that's what I wanted to incorporate in my sound. They didn't know why they loved it, but that's the reason why they loved the records. It's because it's the frequency that it's tuned to is tuned to build you and uplift you, especially if you have like the CD. Once you put it on the internet and stuff like that, they automatically, by law, change it to 440 hertz. So I wanted to drop mine at 528, 432, all of the frequencies that heal. You see? All of the frequencies that help us to reach our higher levels of ascension.
It's interesting because we have similar backgrounds. Like many of us in the United States grew up in the church. My family being from New Orleans, everyone belongs to a band. And so in my household, we had all kinds of instruments. Drums, guitars, horns, of course, because my dad was in the second line band. And, of course, that transition, well, for those of us who do transition into an African-centered consciousness and the like, trying to find these mediums to teach. And so also, because of the musical background, was producing, used to be a DJ. I rhymed a lot, but I got hit with the scholarship bug. And so for me, it's like I can do the music. I just do it as a hobby and for fun,
Right.
not necessarily as a career. So not too many people know me outside probably the poetry community down south, but they don't pretty much know me there. But for me, it's just like, and I'm bringing this up to say that, you know, everybody, you know, has their paths, and their paths take them to put them in a particular position in the constellation of consciousness. And so, for example, in your case, I would argue that you're one of the individuals that bring people and stabilize their thoughts into the information. I'm one of those people that once they get there, there's information for them to read in terms of the scholarship, you know, saying is concerned. And but it's interesting how music plays a role in both of our I would say life paths, for a lack of a better term. And you know, one of my biggest influences, you know, because I grew up, of course, in the golden era of hip hop music for me, which is like 1987 to around 97, 98. That's the golden era for me.
Facts.
And you know, one of those groups was Brand Nubian.
Yeah.
And you know, who had a healthy mix of just the street jams, just common everyday things, and then they hit you with some 5%ers, some Afrocentric stuff in there. And so bringing them up, because of course they will be at the performing at the Black Excellence, the HAPI Black Excellence conference this coming weekend. But how does it feel to be able to share the stage with such a legendary group? And are there other folks that you would, you know, inform us on who you've also shared the stage with that we may be familiar with?
Yeah. So with Brand Nubian, you know, like I said, I wasn't even allowed to listen to hip hop growing up. So I learned about Brand Nubian very late compared to the average person. Right? I was only allowed to listen to gospel music for a very long time in my earlier stages of development.
Same here.
Right?
Go ahead.
So yeah, like my experience of being totally free with music was Tupac Shakur, Biggie, Puff. I came in at the era when everything was about to hit the fan. Right? I came in at the era, I would say one of the earliest records that I can actually remember was Das Effects, Onyx, you know, Slam. Let the boys be boys. My moms would let me do that. Yeah. So it's like when I really started rapping, as far as actually I want to do this, the first thing that I was listening to was actually Bone Thugs and Harmony. I love the way Busy Bone was doing his thing. You know, he brought the melody, him and Crazy brought that melody that to me was like nobody was doing that. And you hear some of that, you know, in my music even now today. Like I bring melody, you know, to it. It's not just rap. Like, I'll even do R&B, straight R&B records, you know, because I've always had a love for both sides of the game. I had a love for the melodies before I had a love for the rapping, you know. So as far as today, you know, some of the artists that I've worked with Mumu Fresh out of Baltimore. Dope artist, one probably, I would say top 2 female rappers right now alive. Top 2, without a doubt.
Who's the other?
What's that?
Who's the other?
The other, I would probably say it's going to be a toss-up between, I would say, Lauryn Hill and Rhapsody, as far as female rappers are concerned, in my opinion. That's just my personal opinion. And then I would put Cy Rock as that close third of the Trinity. That's my Trinity. I don't think anybody can rock with that. I don't think anybody can beat that. If I was to get Cy Rock, Moo Fresh, and Lauryn Hill on the same set, there's no wins. You can't come to me with any three girls that's gonna beat that. You know. So I've always had a love for the divine feminine rappers. You know, so my first real album that I put out, I had Moo Fresh on there. And she was on my title track called As Above, So Below. The name of the album is As Above. It's a double album, As Above and So Below. So Below is like a R&B-ish, more melodic sound. As Above is more hip hop, very boom bap-ish, you know, that type of sound. So I put Moo on that. And then I also have on that same album a record with Joey Badass. I'm sure you probably guys all know him from the 50 Cent series. What else? So that record with Joey was super huge because it showed the connection that, you know, consciousness is still relevant in today's day and time. You know, it's not something that you can only do with conscious artists too, right? So I wanted to show that generation gap was not there, that the younger generation is more in tune than even our elders were back in the day. The younger generation, as you see, they have no problem with meditation. They have no problem with saying what they think is real and what they think is fake. You know, because they came into the information era with the internet and everything, you know, they have information that we didn't have as kids. So, you know, my teachings is not far off from where they are mentally. So, who else did I work with? Planet Asia, he's on the album. You know, veteran MC. Also, CJ Fly's on the album. Static Selector is produced a track with Moo Fresh, hip hop icon. I've done shows for Conway the Machine, Griselda, Benny the Butcher. You know, the list goes on and on. I work with a lot of people, man. And some of the stuff behind the scenes, people wouldn't even know, like that's me. Some of the stuff that people see visually and, you know, things of that nature, I was doing, but they just didn't know that it was me. So, and I do a lot of stuff locally. You know, I like to help local artists and people that are up and coming, people from a grassroots level. I really have my heart there, you know, because that's where it's the purest. You know, when you're dealing with people in the industry, it's not as pure as those that are just, you know, in the hood and doing it for the love and just want to express themselves. So yeah, I work with a lot of people, man. I work with my first gig in the music industry was actually with Alicia Keys. At the time I was working in Guitar Center, and her assistant came in and saw me working, you know, by myself. I was running 2 departments by myself, and she was like, you know, what do you do? Her name was Ann Mincielli. Shout out to Ann. She said we're looking for some interns and people to work in our studio. I was like, yeah, I do hip hop, R&B, boom, boom, boom. You know, I wasn't really paying her no mind, but she was buying a whole lot of equipment, so I might as well listen to her. She said, you know, I work for Alicia Keys. You know, so I'm looking at her, I'm like, whatever. Like, if you ever seen Alicia Keys' engineer, Ann, it's like night and day, right? So I'm looking, I'm just like, no way, whatever. But I'll give you my resume, right? Gave her the resume. 2 months later, she calls me. I wasn't even thinking about them. You know, I just thought it is what it was. She calls me, and I end up at Alicia Keys' studio in Glen Cove, learning how to engineer and being the gopher. You know, that's where I started. You know, just being a regular guy in the studio and just watching everything. watching how the game was. So that's why to this day I move independently, because I know how the back end looks versus dealing with labels and stuff like that. I know what it takes for an artist to be an artist on his own.
All right. For those of you who are just joining us, we have with us Brother Jamaar Milton, and he is going to be performing this coming Saturday, February the 4th, 2023, in Queens, New York, for the HAPI Black Excellence conference and gathering. And we're going to take just about 3 minutes, and I'm going to play another track and video from our guests, and then we'll come back to wrap up the show.
Don't judge me, I understand I'm doing too much. How can you love me? I'll be just fine, give me time to unwind and I'll find me. I don't do sorry, in love we go blindly, don't lie me. Stay here beside me. I can't focus, not myself, I need help, I'm surprised you don't notice. Time to heal, I need you, you need me, we're so hopeless. When shit gets real, I don't feel, just go numb, it's slow motion. But you got that potion, you're something like my first high. You're something like my first high. You're something like my first high. There's nothing like that. There's nothing like that. We're so fragile, I'm on eggshells, it feels like I'm walking a tightrope. Yeah, yeah. No matter what I do, seems so hard to idle the cycles. I'm going psycho. Fuck, I know my mind's blown. Someone check my vitals. I hear voices, they make choices. Things important, I'm talking, but they wouldn't listen. They tryna play me, I'm going crazy. Somebody saves me, yeah. This addiction is health conflicted. My soul resistant, I'm too wasted to feel conviction. You got me lifted. You're something like my first high. Something like my first high. You're something like my first high. There's nothing like that. Nothing like that. Come on.
Follow me?
Yeah.
Nice.
Right?
Yeah.
Yo, that's crazy, bro.
Yeah.
You spent some fire shit, bro.
Good look, got new music coming right now, man.
Yes, that was from our good brother Jamaar Milton, and he will be again this coming Saturday at the Black Excellence Conference hosted by HAPI. A number of dynamic guests and special performances, and you can check him out on YouTube. He has his own YouTube channel, so you can check out all the videos, two that I've shown here today and more. He's also on Instagram, at Jamaar on Instagram. You can purchase and listen to his music, I'm pretty sure on a number of platforms, but this is just one of them, unitedmasters.com/Jamaar-Milton. And I want to come in on this so you can give me a little bit of background on what exactly is the Lighthouse movement. You mentioned it earlier, but I now want you to kind of go into detail before we go.
So the Lighthouse is essentially a group of like-minded individuals, such as myself, who seek knowledge. That's pretty much what it is. We share knowledge with one another, and we take it seriously. We try to keep it a no judgment zone as much as possible, and we try to get as many people involved in the engagement of that without persecution. A lot of times when you get into this, people want to debate, right? Debate. So that's pretty much what consciousness has been geared around for a long time. But the Lighthouse is very, very different. Like, you've never seen Jamaar Milton sit down and do a debate. You know what I mean? So what I try to do is I show, hey, listen, you can elevate in scholarship without arguing with other people, right? It's okay to sit down and share information. But when you get to the point where you metastasize to the information, right, to where if somebody has something contrary to what you're saying, you feel offended, that's a problem, because we can't grow that way, right? We have to be able to listen to each other thoroughly. And the Lighthouse was a group that was pretty much formed organically from a bunch of people who kind of felt the same way. They just wanted a safe space to share information. And that's what the Lighthouse ultimately became. We ended up starting businesses together. A lot of them come from a grassroots level. We promote Black business. And also from there became the label name. So it's also a record label. We've done humanitarian work, a lot of philanthropy work. We raised money for Flint, Michigan. I think we did $11,000 for that we raised. We went out, took a trip out to Flint, Michigan. We take people to Africa. We took people to pyramids to teach them the Medu Netta so that they can experience Africa. We took 100 people for our first trip ever. So that's pretty much what we do. We come together, like-minded individuals. We come together and we build with one another. Whatever visions that we have, what we feel that the community needs. It's easier when you can unite with a family and you have a foundation. That's my following at the end of the day, is the Lighthouse. The Lighthouse is what holds me down. I started off on the stoop just dropping memes. Like anything that I saw on the internet, I was dropping memes, and then I started creating my own from my own study. And the Lighthouse was the first people that were there. They saw me on the stoop, doing memes, like, the shadow work. They've been with me for the whole journey. So, you know how sometimes, like, where you are, like right now, Asar, somebody could come in and see you, doing your live and to see what you're doing. They don't know what it took for you to get to this space, right? So those people that were there from the beginning, that watched you when you first started, those are the ones that are dear to your heart. The Lighthouse is the ones that was there when I was on the stoop. I didn't know where this was going. Before I took my DNA test, before I did anything, before I realized who I was, the Lighthouse was the ones who said, we see you and we feel the same way, and we're going to help and support you. That's the Lighthouse. So We now have lighthouses in every state, in every major city in America. Like, there's nowhere I can go in America and I won't have a place to stay at. You know what I'm saying? All I got to do is get my travel. No matter where I go in North America, I got a place to stay at. I got people that's going to hold me down and got love. You know what I'm saying? That's the lighthouse. We got groups everywhere. So I do lectures. You know, they're the ones who set up the venues in that particular state or wherever I'm going. It's always somebody from the lighthouse that's ready to stand up and do the work. You know, and that's all we're looking for is people that want to do the work. That's what the lighthouse is about. So, you know, definitely go to lighthousemovement.com. Many of us have bought land in Ghana. We have our own city, literally, in Ghana, in Senya Kwe Palm. We bought, I don't know, 40, 50 plots of land, maybe, at least, right now. Probably more than that, but we bought a whole lot of plots. And everybody has, you know, they're building their homes over there. So, you know, the lighthouse is international. Like, we won't be here for long. You know, the way that we're moving, more than likely, it's going to end up being an African-based movement at some point in time once our houses are completely built. So, you know, that's what we do. That's what the lighthouse is about. And I challenge anybody, get involved, check it out. You know, it starts just by following the pages that you put up there. And all you do is you just tap in with anybody that you see that's in the feed, because 9 times out of 10, they're going to be a part of the lighthouse and already a part of it. If they, you know, I always tell people when they get on my lives, I say, put your nines up and let me know where you're from. And the reason why I do that is because I want people to see, okay, there are people in my own hometown that's on this feed. You know, they don't live too far. We should connect with them. You know, we should do something. We should build something because they're like-minded. That's the hardest part about consciousness, is finding people that are like-minded, right? Because everybody wants to kind of assert their own thing. When you find somebody that's like-minded, you got to take advantage. You got to take advantage of that. The universe put y'all together for a reason. Y'all vibrate on the same frequency. That means y'all are powerful together. If y'all build something, the energy is going to resonate. Versus you just doing business with anybody, right? When you do do it with somebody that's like-minded, somebody that's on the same page as you, right? That strike is going to have that much more force. So that's what the lighthouse has helped me to do. That first picture there, you see us in Las Vegas. We take trips. We do lighthouse, what we call lighthouse power trips, where we just come together and we take a trip. It don't have to anything to do with consciousness. We just want to go and have a good time with one another, love on one another, have fun. You know, fellowship. That's what that's about. You know, brother and sister, divine masculine, divine feminine fellowship. There's not enough of that, right? Without ulterior motives. You know, finding good people to travel with and have fun. You know, you ever go somewhere, you travel somewhere to another state or another country and you travel alone? That's weird. You know what I mean? You don't necessarily feel, it's different when you get to bounce what you're thinking off of somebody for a first experience. You know, when I first went to Africa, I was able to see people's reactions their first time being there, as opposed to them just telling me. We all there together. We holding each other down. We go out. We go, you know, do what we do. We eat together. Everything. It's a family. That's what it is. It's a family. You know, so me, I'm just a piece. I'm just one piece of this. The lighthouse is bigger than me. You know, I may have started it, you know, because there was a need for it, but the lighthouse is way bigger than Jamaar Milton, by far.
Indeed. Thank you. And as we wrap up here, where, other than the link that I shared in terms of United, can they find, you know, your music? You know, as any
it's on all
any other. Go ahead.
It's on everything. If you're dealing with what do you call it? iTunes, Google Play, Apple Music, Spotify. It's on everything. And if you go to my website, that can lead you to also my I have another website, a store. You can go to the Lighthouse store. It's in there as well. If you want to buy hard copies, you can go there, or you can download the digital copies too at the Lighthouse store. So it's everywhere. It's out.
All right. And last question: what do you have going on for the future? What should we look forward to, at least for 2023?
For this year, I'm venturing into a new space. I did 3 films over the course of this time. I'm actually getting ready to shoot the last one in next week or so. But expect to see me on the big screen on film. I'm excited about it because my first role, my first acting gig, I'm actually playing myself. So that was like I won't say like a slap in the face, but more like a kick in the pants. Like bro, that's not normal. Like, you know, like you playing yourself. Like sometimes I keep myself down. Like, you know, trying to be humble, trying to be meek, and then you realize, like, you know, you're doing a lot more than you think you're doing. You know what I'm saying? To play an active role in a movie and play yourself, it's like, who do you think you are? You know what I mean? That's how I was looking at it. Like, but they was like, no, like, we want you to play this role. We want you to do your song. You know what I mean? So like, that was very different for me, and it was eye-opening for me, and it helped me to just have faith in what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? And believe in myself a little bit more than what I used to, because I'm not from this space. You know what I'm saying? I felt like I was new and I should tread lightly. But really, what I've gone through and the houses that I've gone through, and the things that I've studied, that's my superpower. You know, people are like, oh yeah, you was in the Christian faith for 30-something years. Yeah, that's my superpower. You know, like, can't nobody come to me with any type of religion and tell me anything that I don't know already. They can't show me. Like, I was a pastor's kid. I was in church 6 days a week studying. 6 days a week, like clockwork, and then in church on Sunday. You know, so, you know, it put me in a space where I can speak on things that you would have to literally be a pastor or somebody who's been studying it for 20 years to be able to speak on. I can speak on those things by memory. I don't need a guru. I don't need, you know, a book with dust on it from the back of the library. I know what's there. I know what's not there. Right? I know what the context is, you know? So it's different when you're acting out what you read and what you live versus just having a whole lot of knowledge, right? When you're actually living in your purpose versus being the knowledgeable one who can tell everybody stuff, it's very, very different. Because now you have trial and error involved here. You have application involved here where you can rule out things that work for you and don't work for you. You can say, hey, yeah, that only works for you. It doesn't work for the masses. It doesn't work for everyone. Here, let me prove it to you. Right? It's a whole different space. And I think that's what makes me unique, because I've actually gone through the motions. You can't come to me and say, oh, well, you ain't read your Bible. What do you mean? Read it 13 times front and back. Oh, you don't understand it. I've acted it out. I've actually tried most of the things that most people won't, according to religion and biblical text. Right? So now I can go to ancient Egypt and read what's on the walls and say, I know what book that is in the Bible. I know what story they're mimicking. I can look at the dates and compare and contrast. I know them. Most people who follow religion haven't really read their books. They haven't really studied them. They bounce around from scripture to scripture. They haven't read it straight through. They don't know the story. Right? They know the things you can take out of it, right? A lot of people go into these things to rape and pillage. You know, take chew the meat, spit out the bones. We're gonna take whatever's good for us, right? But you never actually take a step back and conceptualize the whole thing of what's being taught here. And I think that's what I bring to the table, most of all. You know, stepping outside. You know.
Speaking of. As a last minute announcement, on the 17th of February. I think it's a Friday. Let me just double check. Yeah, so the 17th, Friday the 17th, I will be on Garfield Show, and I'll be doing a presentation on Osiris being a foreign deity to ancient Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
And although working on that presentation, I have a kind of a second part to it in terms of Osiris. I titled it Osiris, the Origin of Jesus. I won't have enough time to do it on Garfield Show, so I'll end up doing it on my program. So I'll either do it that same day or I'll do it the next day, depending on, well, I think we're doing it at night. So I'll do it probably that Saturday morning or so. So y'all can get it in sequence. But just to bring the relationship of, in a very scholastic way, the influence of Egypt on the Bible itself. And of course, we'll be using the tools of historical comparative linguistics, along with archaeology, anthropology, and the like. So, make sure y'all check out Garfield's channel, the Dagger Squad. Well, I think he changed it from the Dagger Squad to just Garfield Podcast. And but with that said, I do appreciate you stopping by and sharing your story with us. Hopefully we can have you back. And I look forward to meeting you in person this coming Saturday in New York. I'll be coming from Philly. And thank each and every one of you who are listening live. And of course, those of you who are catching the archive. We're streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitter. So shout out to all the folks on Twitter and of course on Facebook. And so I appreciate, again, you coming on and sharing your wisdom. And make sure y'all check out the HAPI Black Excellence conference. And remember to go to hapi.com so that you can get your tickets. You can go in person or you can stream live. And with that said, we are out. Y'all be blessed. Peace.
Everybody has a story of how things became what it is.
And all of the stories that we're experiencing up to date are all based on the original mythological story.
Myths are ways of codifying profound truth.
And so in order to pass on the knowledge of these things, our ancestors began to put them in the form of stories.
Because myth becomes a way of speaking to that.
And it's all considered to be mythology because it is based on a belief.
And then we create rituals that reinforces the logic and the knowledge of the myth.
The story then goes into a ceremony that is constantly going to remind people.
That's where the rituals come in, where we began to practice this, what they call Assyrian drama.
This story, this African story of an African trinity, is over 6,000 years old. There's several different pieces of that story that are in direct correlation to the story of Jesus.
Scholars know this. Why do they allow people keep thinking it's a religion unless they have an untoward agenda? And it's very clear that they've created a lot of confusion.
LAX blowing on the Lolo, draped in the flyest logos, pockets swole, bro. Attract the finest of divine feminine cocoa. Try to keep a humble approach, better than most though. Too cold for hell and I know heaven a no-go. Reminiscing of demons like a devil in Rojo, but still I rise like the primordial Ocho, you know. And it's like that way. Since the beginning of time, I was a winner who shine on a ridiculous grind, keeping my business in line. All of this shit is divine, homie. I hope you could stand the rain, no Mr. Mean. Hit the homie T-Red for exquisite green, riding down Fairfax, Bentley, no limousine. Thoughts about make it in the dying, I was in between. My higher self intervened like a pick and screen, in and out burger tween, dopest shit you ever seen. I survived the drought, the coldest of the evergreens. Played a couple clubs, now they know me in the mezzanine. Let it breathe, no energy for enemies, especially now we on the bigger and better things. You know the name ring bells, let it ring, nigga. Let it ring, let it ring. You know the name ring bells, let it ring, nigga. Let it ring, let it ring.
Another one of those days, but the 7th for this week. Been on the grind, sun up and down, it's here not for the weak. My stock gon' rise, today's prices, not yesterday's feet. This world of drama, dodging karma from my days as a G. Planting knowledge, empowerment in the streets for my peeps. Could never fly, you scared to jump, nigga, so I took that leap. Consciously knowing I fall, to land back on my feet. Dust off my shoes, kiss my bruises, then it's back to the peak top. Been the beasts, playing snatches, running from beat cops. Scully tops to wearing scullies running down on my ops. My innocence was robbed from me, whether I liked it or not. Everything I did as a kid, it was never for props. I fell in love with the feeling from the feeling I got. Adrenaline pumping, blood rushing from the bulge of the Glock. That's fully stocked with hollow tips that make a life come to stop. My change of course came from my homie, lifeless, dead in the box. Still hear the cries from his son and his girl asking why. I lost a piece of me that day without a proper goodbye. But that's the norm for we these days, just take your piece of that pie. But that's the norm for we these days, just take that piece of that pie.
You know the name ring bells, let it ring, nigga. Let it ring, let it ring. You know the name ring bells, let it ring, nigga. Let it ring, let it ring.